Right, good evening to everyone who's watching this live stream. Easy Talk, but the bite-sized version. In the house, I have some familiar faces. It's a new year. No new faces, just familiar faces. So TC, back from his holidays, back from a long-deserved break. TC, how you going, man?
I'm all right. How are you, Alex? How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Rested. Just celebrated my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
And we've got James as well. James, how are you going?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year to all.
Thank you. And I've got my brother, Ralph. How's it going?
Yes, Ajax. I was
You're
going to
right.
put a photograph on online, but I've been told not to put it on, so I think that might be the best thing to do at this moment in stage. But yeah, nice seeing you, TC. Nice seeing you, James. Happy New Year. I hope you had a really good Christmas. And yeah, let's get cracking on this.
Right. So so coming home from work yesterday, and I just kind of caught up on Unai Emery's press conference, and within the first few moments, my jaw dropped to the ground. Why? Because he declared that Arsenal do not have any money, and any new players that comes in will be on loan deals. So the question that came into my head was, what's happened to all the money? What happened to the dream of when we move to the Emirates, we're going to be competing with the biggest clubs in European football? And somewhere along the line, I think that translation has broken down. It's been lost in translation. For me, the dream has been slightly shattered or slightly shaded in murky waters. I do feel let down, and I think maybe Unai Emery, to a certain extent, is having his hands tied together. Now, James, what is your opinion about? I mean, we've been at the Emirates for more than maybe 14 years.
Yep, 2006.
Yeah. So, what's happened? What's happened?
First and foremost, I want to commend Unai Emery's honesty to actually come out and say that. I want to commend that. I think as well, you know, when you look at the contracts that have been offered by Arsenal, not just in terms of length, but in terms of wages to players that are average, not really that good, you know, or players that have been brought for a very hefty sum. I give the example of Gabriel Paulista, was signed for 15 million euros from Villarreal. Didn't play half as much as what he should have done, but every time the man played, he gave his all. Arsenal ended up selling him to Valencia for a €5 million loss, and he's now playing really, really well for Valencia. I know they're having a sticky patch at the moment, but he's a mainstay in that defence. And I think when you have players like this on the books, that like for Lucas Perez as well, you know, we've signed him for 17 million euros and sell him for only 4. This comes back to bite you in behind sooner rather than later. And we get to the point now where, you know, I commend Unai Emery's honesty, but for me, looking forward, I hope Arsenal will go back into investing heavily in their youth, you know, in the youth setup. I mean, when you look at some of the good young players we've got at the under-23s, you've got the likes of Charlie Gilmore, Ben Sheaf, you know, Daniel Ballard. These are the players that are the future now. So bring them in as soon as possible. And then when it comes to eventually being able to buy permanently again, don't go off on a canter. Identify the player, the position, and give a sensible contract in terms of length and wages. Because I think we've neglected that in recent years, and it's come back to bite us in the behind a little bit. And the only thing you can do now is give Emery an opportunity to work. You know, this reminds me a little bit of his time at Valencia. When he was at Valencia, he took over from, I think, Ronald Koeman. And Koeman spent again. And Valencia were in a bit of financial trouble. And he managed to get the best out of that group. So maybe we're not in any financial trouble, so to speak. But obviously being limited, we can't do that much. But maybe it's similar for him. But yeah, very interesting times ahead.
TC.
Hi. My thoughts on this, right? Right, I'm usually one to criticize the board, the managers, and everyone else involved with the club, right? But this was due to a lack of understanding, right? I'm not defending the actions of the owner, but football is a very tricky, business to navigate finances, if you like. Okay, so in recent years, we've had the FFP introduced, right? And we've dropped out of the Champions League. What that's meant over those, well, last season and this season, what's that meant? It's basically there was a reduction in the revenue the club actually generates, right? Through sponsorships from being in the Champions League, etc. Player sales, because we don't sell our players at a high value, as the same point as James has made. Okay, so we're running losses on players, which means in turn the revenue really is extremely much less than it were than when we were in the Champions League. So the club has got money. The club has got money, but due to those financial fair play rules that have come in, it's actually restricting us. It's not down to the owner. It's not down to the manager. It's basically stipulations and the laws that are in place within football nowadays that doesn't allow us to go out and spend in this market. In particular, the January market is extremely inflated anyway. However, a lot of people will turn around and say, well, Manchester City do it, for example, right? They go out and they'll spend big, they'll spend X amount of money. The difference is with Manchester City, they are owned by a huge conglomerate, right? This family, the Abu Dhabi family, if you want to call them that, they own other businesses that are completely separate to Manchester City, to all the other businesses that they own. So, for example, Etihad, the airline, or the business called Etihad, sponsored Manchester City for £80 million, right? Over a period, £80 million a year over a period of 5 years, which is close to what, £400 million, right? So that counts towards FFP. That counts as a sponsorship. There's certain aspects and certain bits of revenue, such as the money in the bank or investments from the owner, they won't be included in the FFP. So that could end up getting the club fined. So you see the owners, for example, of Manchester City, they're not injecting money directly. They're doing it indirectly through the other businesses that they own. So in the summer, we've been told that we can spend in the summer, which I completely believe and I agree. The FFP rules would have been reset. We will have new sponsorship deals in place with Adidas. The Emirates deal has been renegotiated. So there's going to be a hell of a lot more money. Of course, as a fan at the moment, it's really, really disappointing. But even if Stan Kroenke put in £100 million now into Arsenal's bank account, that doesn't matter. It won't count. It will essentially end up getting us fined if we go out and spend in the market. And the other reason really why it's hurting us really is because we are not selling players. So if you can sell and then buy, that sort of cancels each other out. But there's a clear, decent explanation. And I've managed to read a lengthy article today about all of this whole situation. So I believe it's not down to the owner. Yes, we don't like the owner. That's the general consensus. But genuinely, their hands are tied by these rules and stipulations in place. Unless if we end up having a sponsorship deal through Walmart, which is Stan Kroenke's wife is part of, and then they can inject money through that way. That's another similar way we can get around it, like the Manchester City situation. But it's not the owner's fault. People need to get that. And it's complicated, and a lot of people are very fickle, and they're quick to rush to blame the owners and the managers, etc. So that's my take on that.
So T, let me ask you a question. So are you saying, in actual fact, that if we were to sell players,
yeah,
that would make the situation a lot easier for us to buy players?
That is correct. That is correct. But the club hasn't got valuable assets to sell within this market. And through mismanagement of contracts, for example, Ramsey's gone on a free. We could have sold him for £50 million, and that could have been reinvested without affecting the FFP. Obviously, at the end of the season as well, we will have an extra £24 million that can go towards wages. Once the players that have contracts coming to an end now, it's roughly about 500k a week that will come back into the club. And that will work out as £24 million over a space of 12 months. So that's going to also come back into play, if you like, which means we can offer bigger wages in the summer. It's complicated. I know it's complicated.
But TC, it's not even like it's complicated, you know, from a fan's perspective.
Of course.
The only thing that we want to know is about improving the standard of the squad that we have now, challenging for the league, challenging the bigger clubs in Europe. We're not, well, I don't think they're concerned about, you know, the mechanics, about, you know, bringing in players, the limit of the amount of money that we can spend as a club. Fans are not interested in that. They're not. We're just interested in bringing new players, buying players, selling players that we think are not on our level or are not a good investment. Fans are not interested in the finer details.
I agree. There was mismanagement of players coming in at a lower level. At that point, I completely agree. They were coming in at high wages and they weren't up to par. But at the moment, it's only been less than a season since Arsene Wenger's left. We are in transition. Things will work out. Of course, I want victory now. I want to win now. I'm the same as every single fan, but we need to be patient. That is the key thing here. We need to be patient.
Ralph.
Okay,
Save the day, Ralph. Save the day.
Okay, I'm not gonna say I'm as knowledgeable about the financial fair play as TC is or as James is. I'm looking at it from a pure point of view that I'm not really surprised that we don't have this money, that we don't have the financial clout that we thought we did have. I just did a little bit of research into Stan Kroenke. His wife's family from Walmart is worth $130 billion. Okay, Stan Kroenke is worth 7.6 billion. His wife is worth 6 billion. Usmanov, who now we have taken off because he has sold his share, is part of his share to Stan Kroenke, was one of the richest men, 14.4 billion he was worth. These are the people we had in our club. Okay, so from an outsider's point of view, when you hear a billionaire, let's take it back. Let's rewind it back to, I believe, 2003, 2004, when Abramovich came into Chelsea, and there's this billionaire, all-rich billionaire from Russia. Now, Chelsea, we all knew Chelsea back in the day. They were, not being disrespectful, they were a mediocre team. They were doing what we're doing now, then. They were in just on the fringe of Europe, okay? So Abramovich came in and put his money where his mouth was. And that team rose, done back-to-back premierships, and one of the things that we were very close to doing, but they succeeded, unfortunately, they won the Champions League. They're the only London team to win the Champions League. Okay? To me, that is what financial clout can do. Now, Man City, another team that we used to beat regularly, we actually became a feeding team to them. Gael Clichy, Sami Nasri went to Man City because they were able to lure them through big wages, and they won the Premiership. So, to me, when you have somebody sitting on the board who is a multi-billionaire, who doesn't say anything to, as far as I'm aware, doesn't say anything to the manager, doesn't say to the manager, you know what, I can see from coming to visiting my club, seeing the fans, seeing how disruptive they were for the last, not one season, but 5-6 seasons, seeing how close we were to winning the Premiership. And then, you know what? I'm going to pull the money back because Leicester done it and they're not as rich as we are. So let me just sit on my billions and you try and replicate the yesteryears. It doesn't work. It purely doesn't work. Ivan Gazidis, who for some kind of financial wizardry has managed to make players like Wilshere, Ramsey, Chamberlain. We managed to get something from Chamberlain, but some of these players now they've been playing for our team for about 5-10 years. These are the players that are now walking on the free. How does that manage? How does that equate to us, the fans who come to the club, paying through the turnstiles, paying for? You've probably seen on the video that Alex and I did, that we went to the Emirates at the weekend because it was his birthday. We're doing those things. These are physical things. You can't walk into the Emirates and say, I want to have a tour of the Emirates. You got to pay. We've got somebody who's taken all the money and he has not invested back into the club. So I'm a fan. I've been a fan since 71. And I love the team. I love, even through the dour times. A friend of mine gave me a reminder about when Wrexham beat us in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Those were the hard times.
Yeah.
But we had teams. We had a team that was willing to fight on the pitch. Now we have to fight in the boardroom. We have to fight a chairman who is not saying anything financially. He's not look at Emery, Unai Emery. He's coming to the team. He's coming to the club. He's worked miracles for 22 matches, 24 matches. Back your manager up. Give him the finances that he needs.
Ralph, I would say, I know a lot of people do have angst against Kroenke, but he has given Arsenal some money. I mean, how much should we spend on Lacazette?
50.
How much should we buy Aubameyang for?
65.
So
105 million.
So he has given Arsenal money.
Yeah,
we have had
what
the
I'm
funds.
Saying is he may have given Arsenal money, but to me they are token gestures because we know the deficiencies in the team. We know that we need a defender. We need a central defender. We know we need not just one defender. Quite possibly, we need 3 defenders. We need a winger. From midfield up, I'll say we're okay, but it's no point running up, scoring a goal, or as we did against Southampton or a Man U. We scored a goal, and then within about a minute of celebrating, they're back at our end, scoring the equaliser, the winner.
James, do you think this might be a watershed moment for Arsenal to actually realise that we do need to get back to basics and try and nurture the youth, the rich amount of youth players?
I hope so. I mean, I've been supporting the club for 30 years, more than 30 years. And even when I was a young boy and you had the likes of Rowe, Thomas and Davis came through the youth setup. In the early to mid-Wenger years, you had players who didn't necessarily come to break through at Arsenal, but they all had one thing in common. They all went on to become Premier League standard. And they all played Premier League football. One point I'd like to bring up, I wonder about Kroenke's priorities with the LA Rams in the NFL. I think they're building a new stadium. I think his priorities slightly sway to them at the minute. And if you've got an owner who has multiple franchises rather than one, you wonder where his priorities really lie. But I mean, only time will tell. I mean, for him to gobble up all the shares in the way he did. You know, when I was younger and a teenager, and you had the likes of David Dean and Peter Hillwood and Danny Fisman and those kind of people, they weren't just competent businessmen. They were also Arsenal fans at heart. They would never take a decision in jest. They would never look at things and say, "Oh, we're gonna evaluate things properly." And I think it was Peter Hillwood that said when Kroenke was first muted. You know, I think there was a quote that went around that we don't need his type here, and I can understand what he meant. But from my point of view, when an owner has multiple sports franchises, specifically in another country where he's based, you wonder how high Arsenal rank in his priorities. You know, he's got full control of the club now, and is it just a money making exercise? But we've got to let Emery get on with the job. This is our first season with a new manager for 22 years. It's for some Arsenal fans, this is the first time they've ever seen a different manager in the dugout. You know, and as I said at the start of the season, this season is new for all of us. All of us. You know, for however long we've been supporting the club, this season is new for us, and it's not over yet. We're still in 2 competitions where we can physically win something. I'm hoping it's a European trophy for the first time in 25 years, and then you know, to win something in Unai Emery's debut season would be quite an achievement. I'm still confident he'll do it, because I think that's the way the man's made. When you look at what he's won. And when you look at what he's achieved in his career, not just in Paris Saint-Germain, but also in Almeria and Valencia and Sevilla, all this experience is relative. But I think I agree, Alex. I think it's a great point. It would be well timed to get back into the youth setup. You know, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to interview professional players and managers on a regular basis. And what a lot of people forget is that I've interviewed a fair few players recently that are in between clubs perhaps, or are hoping for a loan move because they just want to get back to playing football. I think a lot of people see January as just a month. Oh, we'll buy this one, we'll buy that one. You need to look in the ins and outs of things. I'll give you an example. I recently spoke to Andrew Eleftheriou, who plays for Watford. When Mazzari was his manager, Mazzari included him in the first team squad, and he would participate in first team training on a regular basis. And under Mazzari, he was involved. But obviously, Watford have a new manager now where he's not as much involved as what he used to be. So what he's hoping is he just wants to get back to playing football on a regular basis, and he'll entertain any kind of loan move. And I think that people are far too quick to think that buying is not the only solution. You're dealing with livelihoods. And when players can't play and get back to a form of standard to improve and keep their livelihood, it can be quite difficult for some.
I still feel a little bit, you know, I don't know, a little bit let down. But yeah, I think Unai Emery will do the best with what he has until the next available window when he can seriously get some money and buy some players and release some players as well.
One point I would like to raise, Alex. I'm not trying to be melodramatic here.
Yeah.
But you hear some rumblings about the board level and being backed. Emery has got so much strength of character. If he is not backed long term, he'll walk. And who can blame him? Who can blame him? He could walk into any team in Spain. Well, okay, with the exception of the big 2, if you like. But if he's not backed long term by Kroenke in terms of what Emery wants to achieve going forward, you know, he could very well walk. I'm not saying it will be end of the season, 2-3 seasons down the line, but Emery's got so much strength of character that he'll assess things slowly but surely. But we're lucky to have him, and the best is yet to come, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just to add to what James was saying in regards to the owner having his focus elsewhere, I understand his mental focus may be elsewhere in regards to the Rams and the LA Rams. But again, I'll go back to finances. I like finances. Not with the finances. So the American football system works in a way that Real Madrid and Barcelona are funded in a similar way, that it's taxpayer based. So that's why you see a lot of American football franchises hopping around to different places, because a state can incentivize a team moving to a particular state by tax breaks and being able to fund that particular operation. So pretty much, I would say 90% of all NFL stadiums have been built using taxpayer money. And this will be the case with the Rams as well. So in turn, the state will get jobs within their local community. They'll get people spending money on match days, etc., etc. So yeah, his physical focus may be over there, but going back to the financial side of things, I don't believe that has a great detriment to the finances with Arsenal. It won't affect Arsenal's finances in that regard. And to my understanding as well, the Walmart family are quite heavily invested in the whole Rams situation. So that could be his wife's money as well, and that side of things. So just to add to that particular point, James, but I agree, his focus could be in LA whilst he's dealing with that whole stadium build, etc. Hence, we don't see him as often as we should be, maybe at the Emirates. But in terms of the finances, as far as I'm aware, our finances won't be affected. So that's just a little point to add to what James was saying.
Okay, right. So before I get a prediction for Saturday's match, because we're playing away to West Ham, I've just got some comments here in the chat. I've got Squint Est, and they say the Adidas money will help out in the next window. Gazidis did a terrible job balancing out the wages, letting contracts run down and selling to rivals. Yeah, that's. And then we've got Ryan. Good evening, Ryan. He says Stan is the owner of the club, so he is to blame for things getting to this point. If we gave a damn and acted sooner, we wouldn't be in this mess. This mess is so-called businessman for crying out loud. And then he goes on to say, but I appreciate Emery's honesty. And and one more comment here. I hate Stan, but a lot of this is Gazidis' fault. He squandered so much money through poor negotiating. Yeah, well, again, I just hope it is a watershed moment for the Arsenal, and we do start to remember that we do have a rich vein of youth players that could be blooded in and brought in to shore up the team. And I think Mavropanos, he's back in full training, isn't he?
I have high hopes for Mavropanos. Very, very high hopes. This is a transitional period, guys. Let's be patient. It's only been one season. How long has Man United been in transition since Fergie left? They've been suffering, truthfully speaking.
But Tisha, the difference is our fan base is so fickle.
That's part and parcel of being an Arsenal fan. We expect more. We want more. We want more and more and more. But a lot of fans need to learn to be patient.
I completely agree. But you know, Alex, you might be able to answer this as well. Going back into the early years, I mean, I first started getting into the club in the early 90s. This kind of fickleness didn't exist.
It didn't.
Going into the teenage years in the early 20s, everybody would pull together, everybody would get behind one another, and you would always respect the opinion of a fellow Gooner. You know, they're wearing the same badge on the shirt as what you've got.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of a brotherhood, in terms of respecting a fan's opinion. And I don't know if it's just now with certain fans wanting to get one up on the other or show that they're kind of in the know, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, does it? The most important thing is that all the fans want the best for the club. All the fans want the club to do well. And I don't know if it's a sign of the times as well, really.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been supporting Arsenal since 1977-78. And like James said, of course, we would have our angst or agreements, but to the point where we're so divided as a fan base.
Yeah. I think social media, fans back then, when what your guys are referring to, I believe anyway, this is my own opinion, would have existed. So there would have been fans up and down the country who supported Arsenal, who would have argued and have different opinions. But now it's more amplified because you can see everyone's opinion on social media. And you're getting a whole host of opinions. There's a vast pool of opinions which you've got access to. So maybe back then you would have been exposed to a smaller pool of people that had the same opinion as you. or maybe similar opinions, not exactly the same. But I just believe in social media, everything is amplified. You know what so-and-so is saying, you know what so-and-so thinks, and you know, that's my take on that.
But then TC, so are we the most divided fan base, or can you tell me of other Premiership fan bases which is more divided than us?
Good question, that.
That is a very good question.
I don't know the metrics. How would you measure that? I don't know.
We fight amongst ourselves. Yes, I know that. Yeah, we're an extremely divided fan base. But again, I believe my answer to that would be down to social media. If you look at all the other Premier League clubs, right? Arsenal has got the most vibrant and the most active users on there, fan-wise. If there's a poll on anything, Arsenal will come out top. Because we've got so many people on there. So I believe it may be down to that. I don't know, Alex. Just a stab in the dark on that one. But yeah, I agree. We're very, very divided. But there's also so many of us on social media platforms.
Because even if you take out the element of social media, I mean, looking at what happened last season, where you saw fans fighting in the stadium and outside the stadium, take out that element there. It's there. It's right there for you. But
I've never seen it at any other clubs, to be honest. Yeah, you're right. I really haven't got an answer for that one, to be honest.
Yeah, probably that'd be my homework. Anyway, guys. So I want a quick prediction for Saturday's match, because I know TC has to go quite soon. So, Ralph, I know you've missed the last few minutes. I think you've had some problems with your
sorry, guys.
internet. So, what's your prediction for Saturday's match against West Ham?
I reckon we'll win 2-0. I reckon a clean sheet, to be honest, 2-0. It all depends again if are we gonna play Aubameyang all the way through. Are we gonna take Lacazette off after about 60, 70 minutes? Is our defense gonna start, playing as they should play? I'm optimistic. So 2-0 from me.
James,
I'll go for 2-1. I think we'll just about get over the line. I think would you win away as well? To get back in the rhythm of things. With home advantage, with the difficult away days at Brighton and Liverpool. I think we'll just about get over the line. I think it'll be 2-1.
Okay, what time's the kickoff? Is it
first game 12:30?
12:30 UK time. 1:30 for me. Get a bit more time in bed.
TC, prediction.
I'm in agreement with James. I believe it will be a very narrow victory, 2-1. Nasri will most likely feature. So I think a lot of the situation around that game tomorrow will be revolving around Nasri. But I'm also hoping that Arnautovic won't show up. He may be playing. But I'm hoping he won't show up because he's their danger man. Scored when they came to the Emirates. And due to his situation at the moment, I'm just hoping he won't turn up. So 2-1 from me. And we should get these 3 points because we've got Chelsea next week.
Brilliant. Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Well, listen, guys, who's ever contributed into the chat, or I saw we had some viewers here coming through as well, just passing by. Make sure you subscribe to James Rowe NL. I'll leave the link in the box, and also TC. I am gonna talk. I'll leave the link in the bottom, as well as Ralph for real. I'll leave his Twitter handle in the box. It's been good to see TC back again. Welcome back. Yeah,
good to be back.
James, fantastic as always.
You're good to have you back on the show. Anytime. You're more than welcome.
Good. And my brother Ralph. Thanks for coming, Ralph. Yeah.
Ralph.
Yeah. Sorry about the in and out appearance.
Listen, these things happen. These things happen. Anyhow, this has been Cannon Fodder TV, the smaller version, bite size of Easy Talk, and we are out.